Hello, I'm Coach Pins. I'm going to be your professor for the next 6 weeks for IS 201, Living in a Diverse World, Sports and Sociology. Today, I'm going to be going over the syllabus. I think it'll be helpful for me to really explain some of these key points throughout the syllabus. At this point, I'm hopeful that you've already explored the website. If you haven't, please do so once you are finished watching this video. Read through everything, make sure you have a really good understanding of how the class is laid out, and then that way if you have any questions after you've looked through everything, I'll be happy to answer them. So go ahead, get your syllabus open either online or your hard copy. I have it a couple different places. Obviously this class is Monday through Friday. Doesn't mean you can't work on stuff on the weekend. It just means assignments are going to be assigned Monday through Friday and they're going to be due Monday through Friday. Everything's going to be online. You don't have to meet at any point with me in person. I provide videos of my lectures for you all and that you can watch at your disposal, okay? My office is located in the W at Wartburg in the Athletic Suite area 280 or 2080. So if you are around and ever do want to meet with me in person, that's where you would meet me at. I have listed my office number and my cell phone number. Both are excellent ways to get a hold of me. Do not hesitate to call me if you have questions or text me if you have questions. Phone calls at this point and texting is one of the most easy ways to quickly get a hold of me. I've listed my email, office hours if you do want to meet with me in person or you do want to chat on the phone. We do need to set up time because sometimes, I won't be available as well. So we can do that several different ways. So the next part is going to be discussing like the course description. I'm not going to read this, verbatim. You guys know how to read. So, but basically we're going to be examining different material and resources and how it relates to culture and specifically through sports. You're going to be watching movies. I'm going to be giving you movie clips. We're going to be reading the book. We're going to look at a lot of different things and how society and sports interact with one another. The required text is the Coakley Sports and Societies, Issues and Controversies, the 11th edition. You must have this book. We use this book throughout the entire 6 weeks. It is a huge resource throughout these next 6 weeks. With your discussion questions, the quizzes, yes, I do provide a PowerPoint and like I said, lectures online, but you're going to need the book to get, a big chunk of your information. I know there's an online book. You're more than welcome to use that. The 10th edition is old and the information is old, so that's going to be difficult, and I don't think the chapters line up the way the 11th edition does now. So make sure that you have the book. If you don't, I would get it immediately. I'll be giving you other handouts. Those will all be online under the handout tab. You'll see them. It'll be nice and easy. So some course objectives and outcomes and goals. Again, I'm not going to read through everything here. Basically I want you guys to, recognize challenges and opportunity around a complex world. I want you to be able to have a wider view of the world to liberal learning. So I'm hoping once we get through some discussions and things, an open mind, you can start to learn that not everything is black and white, and maybe some of the stereotypes or things that we thought, I can just open your eyes to that. I want students become sophisticated critical thinkers, so I want you to think deep these next 6 weeks, beyond the surface, the superficial stuff. And then I also want you to become effective communicators. Obviously we're online, so we're not talking to each other every day, so your communication is going to be through your writing. And you will be interacting with one another, which we'll touch on here in a second. So even though it's a different type of communication, I'll still want you guys to become effective in that area. Students will also understand the impact of sports has on the larger scopes of society. So specifically, we're going to look at education, economy, political, gender, race. Those are just a few. So what I'm saying is we're going to look at how sports impact all of those areas and what effect they have on it. So the grading and evaluation. So understand all your assignments are going to be due by 11:59 p.m. on the due date. If they are late, if they are handed in after that, there will be, 10% per day deduction of your grade. If you're having problems with the internet or something's going on and you feel your assignment's going to be late, I must hear from you before it is due. Hearing from you afterwards is going to get you nowhere. So send me a text, send me an email. Obviously, if your internet's not working, you're not going to be able to send me an email. So then send me a text, Coach, this is what's going on. I can't get my assignment in. So Communication will be key. Anything afterwards will be considered late. Now I have a list of all of the different assignments we're going to be doing over the next 6 weeks. The first one is discussion questions. So every single week you'll be answering discussion questions, somewhere between 2 to 4 questions. They're going to be covering the chapters and the lectures that you should have read and watched. Okay? Each answer, so if you have 2 discussion questions to answer, each answer needs to be 200 words at least. So for a total of 400 words, okay? That's usually an area where students get a little confused. So again, each question, okay, that you answer, your answer needs to be a minimum of 200 words. It can be more, but it must be 200 words. They need to incorporate information from the book, the lectures, film, any scholarly recent news. Maybe we're going to be talking about something that's going on currently in the news. Add that into your answer. That'd be fantastic. There is a grading rubric located on the online site entitled DQ Guidelines, okay? Each question is worth 5 points. So if there's 4 questions, it's out of 20 points. The next assignment I'm going to go through is the peer responses. So every single week, you're going to be interacting with one another. So what you're going to do is once the discussion questions are completed, you're going to go in and you're going to respond to someone else's discussion questions. And you're going to discuss things that you agreed with, maybe things that you didn't even think about, or maybe something that you disagreed with. Each of you have to respond to 2 students every single week. So you'll go in and you'll see that Susie and John have finished their discussion questions. So now you're going to respond to Susie and John, to their discussion questions, something that stood out to you. They're each worth 2 points for a total of 4 points each week. Each response must be a minimum of 100 words in length. So again, if you're responding to 2 students, that's 200 words. My biggest thing with these peer responses is that you are respectful to one another and that you have good conversation, respectful conversation, mature conversation. Anything that is disrespectful will be an automatic 0. The next assignment we'll go over is the personal reflections. So each Friday, you all will have to hand in a personal reflection. It's an essay of 300 to 450 words. It's going to be worth 20 points. And essentially what you're writing to me is, what did you learn this week? What things stood out to you? What was new? What was a refresher? What can you use in the future? So really get into detail. What did you learn? Again, it's going to be critical you use stuff from the book. I'll be showing you different, clips from, documentaries and things, using that type of information. You're going to have movie reviews, which we'll go over here in a second. Use things that you've learned from the movie review. But these need to be 300 to 450 words in length. Again, there will be a rubric for you to follow online about the personal reflections. Movie reviews. So 3 times throughout the next 6 weeks, you're going to have to write a movie review. You're going to watch a sports movie. You're going to write a synopsis on that movie, okay? This is what the movie was about. And then you're going to talk about how it relates to our course. What themes did you see in that movie that we've discussed in class? Or maybe what themes are we about to talk about that you saw in this class? These movie reviews are going to be worth 20 points. These are a little bit different because they need to be 2 pages in length, okay? I have a list on my Wartburg, in our Wartburg on the movie reflection guideline, a list of movies that you can use to watch. If you want to choose a movie outside that list, you need to get it cleared by me. So email me, hey coach, I want to watch this movie. Is that okay? I've listed a bunch. I would prefer it was a movie off that list, but if you find something and you think it would be a really useful tool for class, I'm open to hearing that. The next one is quizzes. So each Thursday we will have a quiz unless it's noted. I believe during week 5 we may not have a quiz. So, each quiz will have 10 questions. They're each worth 1 point. Quizzes are located under the coursework on the left-hand side of My Wartburg. You can use the lectures, you can use the book while you're completing these quizzes. You have 60 minutes to complete the quiz, so when you sit down to take it, make sure that you are sitting down to complete it. It's not going to be a quiz that you can start and then come back to. 60 minutes should give you ample amount of time to finish these multiple choice true-false quizzes. Later on in the semester, we'll be doing a barrier breaker paper. You're going to read an article from the New York Times about a barrier breaker athlete, and then I'm going to ask you to write a paper about an athlete who's broke barriers, and you're going to write it in the first person. So, for example, Jackie Robinson, if you were to pick that individual as a barrier breaker, you would write it in the word like you were him in response to the article. Again, 20 points. It's going to be 2 pages in length. There's a detailed rubric on the paper. I've also put an example of a former student's paper. Please, please, please read that student's paper so you have an idea of how to write it. Be creative. Think of somebody who's, a little out of the box when it comes to a barrier breaker. And we'll touch more on that once we get to that, chapters and into that part of the course. The last thing is the media paper and the group presentation, which are going to be due towards the end of the course. So the media paper is going to be a paper that you're going to write, 2-page paper. You're going to watch 2 hours of some type of sporting event, whether it's ESPN, maybe you're going to watch an NBA playoff game, you watch tennis, something that's on TV for 2 hours, and you're going to analyze the commercials that are seen. Again, I'll go over into more details once we get closer and we're in that week of lecture. But you're going to look at the commercials and discuss the themes that you saw within those commercials, and you're going to write a paper about it. Then you're going to get together in groups, and I'm going to give you your groups assignments next in week 2. Okay, so in week 2, you will know who's in your group. You all are going to put a PowerPoint together on the different themes you all saw within the different times that you watched sports television, okay? So as you can see in the syllabus, I outlined very clearly this presentation needs to be 20 to 30 slides, no more than 40 though. What events were watched through all the members of the group. Description and summary of commercials that were watched, themes and ideologies that connected to the commercials. What conclusions did your group draw from the assignment? May even want to include certain links to commercials for me to view, like, Coach, here's a link for you to see. Also include how you work together. So I want to know how you guys communicated. Was it just through email? Was it phone call? Any live chat? This will be due towards the end of the semester. I will be assigning groups during week 2, which I already stated. There will be a detailed rubric also located on mywartburg.edu. There may be some other assignments throughout the semester that I may assign, so you'll just need to check your weekly assignments and see if there's anything there. Obviously, throughout the syllabus, I've kind of really laid out where all the assignments are, quizzes, the media paper, when they're all due. The grading scale is below, as you can see, and then I also have put in here the Wartburg Honor Code. Obviously, I have no tolerance for work that is plagiarized or anything that is outside of the Wartburg Honor Code, okay? If you have questions about how the site works, like I said, please read through everything first. Go to the welcome page, then go to start here, read through the syllabus, and I really think it's going to be easy. If you click on, the last thing I want to just kind of walk you through is if each week, you just click on week 1. Okay, it's week 1. So click on week 1 and I will list the goals and objectives for that week. This is what I want you guys to learn over this week. Okay, are these, it's always going to be somewhere between 5 to 10 main topics. I then list the assignments for the week. So every single day you know exactly what you should have done by the end of that day. Again, go ahead, work ahead. If you're done with, everything by Wednesday, fantastic. I'm more than happy to allow you to continue to work ahead. The only thing you can't do ahead of time is the peer responses because you need to wait for your peers to put up their discussion questions. I will also have lectures, so similar to how I'm doing it right now. It'll just be me talking through the PowerPoint slides. I strongly encourage you to put up the PowerPoint and then put up my video and go through the PowerPoint as I'm talking because there'll be some points that aren't on the slides that I will, discuss too that will be helpful in your discussion questions. And then, there'll be the forum page, okay? So on the very bottom of week 1, if you scroll all the way down, click on Forum Home, and this is where you're going to find your discussion questions and the personal reflections and some other assignments. Obviously, some assignments will be in the coursework as well, okay? If you think of anything else, make sure that you contact me. I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. I've had, this is my third year teaching this online class, and it's gone fantastic. And we have some really interesting things to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to learning from all of you. Each year, each time I teach this class, I learn from the individuals that are in it. So I'm really looking forward to it. Thanks.